This training today is going to be geared towards our hourly and student employees. If you have questions, feel free to ask them or put them in the chat. Katie's going to be monitoring that for us. Thank you, Katie. And here we go. So on Monday, the 28th, when we get logged in, everyone will have their system login. What you're going to do to report your time is go to the HCM self-service. It's on the left side. And this is what you're going to do in order to report your time worked. You will select the time tile. In this system, we work on tiles. And then you'll want to make sure that you have the right job listed in the drop-down menu. If you only have one job, it will be the only one. Otherwise, if you have two, just make sure that you are highlighting the correct job. Some important things before moving forward is you're always going to use the enter time tile. You're only going to be paid for time that you've entered in this tile, so make sure you're using the right reporting tile. It is your responsibility, as is now, to make sure that you submit your time by the due dates. And remember that time is always entered in quarter-hour increments. So 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, and whole hours. Your timesheets must be submitted and approved by the deadline in order to be paid. Late timesheets will not be accepted and will not be processed. There is going to be a lockdown system in this new ctcLink where once that due date has come and gone, the timesheets will be locked down, meaning you will not have access to any time to process. If you were late to submit time, you will need to work with your supervisor directly because it will require a manual timesheet, manual process to be submitted, and time will not be processed until the next pay period. So you don't want to avoid, you don't want to miss getting a paycheck. So it is your responsibility and very important that you submit your time worked by the due date. There will be no emergency checks cut. So please be sure that you have all the information needed and submitted. If you find you have problems with your credentials, logins, or passwords, please email the help desk. So entering time, once you're in the time tile, you will want to select the top left corner time tile. Once you're in there, it's going to look a little similar to the way TLR does now, where you will have the in time to put in your time, you will have the out time, but in this system, you're going to put the out time for lunch, and when you come back from lunch, if you have a lunch break. Before, you could just put a 30-minute meal break or an hour meal break. Here, it's going to require the time out for lunch and time back in from lunch. You're going to want to be sure to enter your time reporting code. So for hourly employees, it will be the same with HRY. Students, you will want to make sure to put in your correct code here. So you'll want to know if you're a federal work study, state work study, ASG, and supervisors can help identify that code, or if you're unsure, you can also reach out to us, HR or payroll. Same thing here, students. Student hourly, I don't believe we're going to be using this STU code, so please take a look at your time reporting codes when it is time. There is some changes that are still being made as we go, so please be on the lookout to make sure that the accurate code for you is listed. So this is what the drop-down menu will look like when you're putting in that time reporting code. It'll have a little drop-down arrow. This is what's listed now: federal work study, state work study. As I mentioned, there will be additional codes that is being worked on now, should include ASG and college work study. Hourly employees, you will see the hourly code listed here because it's based on your employee type. You will have a comment section. So if you wish to make notes, just like as you did in TLR using the remark field, this is similar. You'll be able to make comments using the comment button. When you are ready to submit your time, you want to make sure to hit the submit. And any data that's not saved is going to cancel. Or you can go back. So with this system, it allows you to put in a week at a time or the full pay period at a time. Unlike TLR, where you could go in and put in your time, log back out, log back in, do another day, this system does not save the time. You will need to report your time as a whole week or the full pay period. So maybe having your schedule and Outlook, what you work, and then transferring it here will work. But just know that if you put in time for one day and log out, it will not save that. So make sure that when you're doing this, you could submit either weekly or based on the full pay period for approval. After you've submitted your time, over here under the day summary, it will turn green. So you will know that it has been submitted to your supervisor for approval. Supervisors will receive this notice the following day. So all time that is put in on one day, it will transfer overnight. So they'll see it the next morning. So if you submit something right away, just know it will take at least till the next day. That is also different from TLR right now, where it automatically transfers right when you submitted it. You want to make sure to enter the correct field information. So for example, if you are not taking a lunch break, you're only going to use the in and out field. If you are taking a lunch break, make sure you put in your in time, what time you're going out for lunch, what time you're coming back from lunch, and then what time you're out for the day. If you are taking a long lunch break, maybe 2-3 hours, that's not considered a lunch break. It would be 2 separate in and out times, and we'll show you how to do that. Make sure when you're putting in your hours that you use the time frame of consistency. For example, you can use the 24-hour system like military time or AM and PM. So you are coming in at 8 a.m., you're leaving at 4 p.m. Or you're coming in at 8, you're leaving at, what is it, 12. This last bullet here is what you want to avoid. You don't want to use a combination of both, whereas you're starting at 8 a.m. and you forget to put in the PM and you just say 4. It's going to be an error because it's going to think that you left at 4 a.m. and that's not going to compute right. So just something to consider. Just be consistent with your entry. Viewable payable time, you'll be able to see how much time you've submitted. So back at the time tile, you'll submit time summary or select time summary. And then the payable time button up top. And then it's going to give you your summary for the day. You can change your times if you've made an error. When you see that something is not right, you can go in, change that, and then select submit, and then OK. Or you can remove the time by putting in the minus here next to wherever you've entered time. You see that's wrong. Select the minus, and then it'll ask you if you wanted to delete it, yes or no, whichever you wanted to do, and then hit submit, and then OK. Here's where, not under removing time, but see this plus button here. This is what you're going to want to do if you have that scenario I mentioned where you're working maybe in the morning for a few hours and then later in the afternoon for a few hours. You would put in time, maybe 8 a.m. and then out time 10 a.m. And then later on that day, let's say you're working at 3, you'll do a plus and it'll give you another line that you could enter in at 4 p.m. and out at 6 p.m. So that would be an example of how to do 2 separate times within the same day. So that's how you would do that versus doing an extremely long lunch break. This is basically what we went over. No lunch break, just use in and out. And then what we mentioned about there's not really a large break. You want to use the plus sign to do a separate line entry. Any questions on that part? I know that could be a little bit. This is also similar to how it was done in TLR. You had the same type of option. Okay, employee absence request. So hourly and student employees do accrue sick leave, and you have the option. So this system does allow you to use that, whereas TLR did not have that set up. What you'll do, however, is you're going to request the absence. You're going to go back to time, the time tile, the request absence tile. And then when you're in the absence page, you're going to make sure that you have the right job selected again. Always make sure you have the right job if you have more than one. And then when reporting the absence, for this employee group, it's going to usually be just sick leave. Sick leave is what's reported right now. Please keep an eye out because, as I mentioned, we are still in the process of making some updates and changes for us. It may change to student sick leave or hourly sick leave. But if there is a question and in doubt, please check with us. We can work with you. So when you are going to submit your time, you've chosen the absence type. You want to do the start and end date and how long that time of absence is. And you can put a comment. And when you are done entering that information, you will submit. And that will then go to your supervisor for approval. Doing the absence request is all you need to do for reporting absence. You don't have to go in anywhere to report how much sick time you were actually out. This is how it is going to be reported. So once you submit your absence request, and once the supervisor approves it, it will then automatically be sent to payroll for processing. Supervisors do still have the option, if there is some incorrect information or wrong dates, to deny a request, whether it be for time or absence. You should be receiving email notices through the system as well, just as you did in TLR. So please make sure that you take a look at that regularly, because if an absence or something is denied and it's not submitted by the due date, that time will not be paid. So it's very important to make sure you keep an eye on your notices. This is just submitting your request. Okay. Now you want to check to see, did you remember to submit a request, or what have you submitted? Go ahead and go back to your time tile. And then you can hit the view request tile. This will let you see what you have submitted.
Unlike TLR, we really don't have a lot of leeway with submissions, right, Tish?
Right, absolutely. Right. And as I mentioned, this system does do a timesheet lockdown. So whereas before, you know, the due date came and went, you were still submitting time and could potentially still be paid if it was late. This option is not going to be available in this new system. Yeah, once the timesheet due date is gone, you will notice that you can't even get in. So very important to make sure you follow those due dates, maybe put some tickler on your Outlook. Email reminders will still go out just as it did before. So keeping an eye on your email notices is also a good idea. Ultimately, it is up to you to make sure you submit your time by the deadline in order to ensure your paycheck will be processed.
Did you want to cover this first period where TLR has been shut down and we're going to have to do this pretty quickly for that first payroll? And when is that due?
Sure. So TLR is shut down now. So it's very quick. So the 28th is when you will start, each group will start to get their notices from IT on activating their accounts. You have to first activate your account. And then once the account is activated, you can start to go in and enter your time. Now, HR and payroll is hosting open Zoom sessions, I think all afternoon Monday, and then about 2 or 3 sessions Tuesday and Wednesday. It's shutting down a little bit later than normal. Normally, the timesheet lockdown will be at the end of the day, at the end of the pay period. But because it's our first time, we are not going to shut them down until I believe it was the 2nd. Right. And that is literally it, because payroll processing starts the morning of the 3rd, and it requires things to be processed overnight in order for us to begin on the 3rd, for it to run on the 4th. So you can see the windows are really tight. So anything that was not submitted in TLR, you won't be able to put that in the new system, because it won't recognize previous pay periods, I believe. So if you find yourself in a situation where you forgot to turn something in, you're going to need to work with your supervisor and us, because it is probably going to require a paper timesheet to be submitted that may or may not be processed in this first round, because we're going to be really tight on trying to literally figure out this whole new process that is very involved and takes a lot of people to get through. So we do appreciate everybody's patience, and we are all learning this together, but we will be here to answer questions for you. And certainly if we don't have the answers, which in many cases we don't just yet, we will find them for you.
How do I activate my account? Can you show where to go to activate it?
Actually, right now, I don't have the PowerPoint information for that, but you will receive that email directly from IT that will list out the specific sections and how to do that directly. That will come to you on Monday.
I believe there will also be training on the LionsLink webpage with instructions on how to do that if you're having difficulties after you get that activation email.
I also want to note that IT will be sending the new employee ID or EMPL ID number. So that's going to replace your current SID number. Please keep that number, save that email somewhere, because you will need that to activate your account on Monday. So that should be going out on actually today, I believe it's on the 23rd. So you'll be receiving that email today. I also recommend, because account activation, as Tish mentioned, will start on Monday, the 28th. If you can, start trying to input your hours early, possibly on that day, because not only would you have to submit those hours, the supervisor also in return has to approve those hours for us to process it. So, just allowing yourself more time for that back and forth, I think maybe a little safe for you.